Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Cabinet meeting on this beautiful day, the 11th of July, 2023. And you're very welcome, those of you who are joining us at home. We begin our meeting today, and it's a very full agenda. We begin our meeting by asking for apologies for absence. Karen, do we have any apologies? Thank you very much indeed. I don't think there are any more, so that's good. The minutes of the meeting that we held last month, on the 13th of June, they've been circulated, and I'm going to sign those as a true and correct record if you are all happy with that at the end of the meeting. Are you all happy? Proposed by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Patterson. We're all agreed. Thank you. Disclosure of members' interest. Any interest to declare from any of the papers we're talking about? If not, we move straight on to the next item, which is a report of the Communities in Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee around firefighters' decontamination. And I think we're lucky enough to have Councillor Nick Oliver with us this morning remotely. Are you there, Nick? It seems that he's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take that recommendation, which, as you can see, talks about requesting Cabinet to approve their recommendation that Cabinet be requested to agree that the financial support for the recommendations by the Fire and Rescue Service be provided to ensure that Northumberland was leading to reduce the risk of contamination and supporting the fire and rescue personnel. Terribly important piece of work, this. I think we're all happy with that. Anybody want to speak to it, or are you just going to accept it? Yes, Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As the portfolio holder, I was in attendance at that meeting, totally support this paper. We, as an authority, have total commitment for the well-being of our staff wherever they are.
Indeed. I think we'd all agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. So we accept that recommendation. Thank you very much to the Scrutiny Committee for making that. So always nice to get recommendations from Scrutiny, which we can discuss. The next one is the District Heating Update and Partnership Procurement. This is quite a complex paper about something that actually is a remarkably simple idea, which says that where there is a source of heat, usually down below ground, occasionally from river power, that heat will be harnessed. It will be fed through insulated pipes to households to provide heat, which is going to be good economically and good environmentally. We have taken significant time to work with potential partners for this. And we've taken the legal advice, as the paper says, about various options. And as a result of that, we are coming this morning with the recommendations, and they are there in front of you, to look at this 8 potential schemes, which will be across the county. They will be supplied by underground heat. They will feed to houses within that neighbourhood and businesses. We are expecting to get full financial support for this as we move forward on this project. Really exciting project, really absolutely the thing that we should be doing. The details are all in the paper for you if you want to read them. But essentially, we're talking about Alnwick, Ashington, Berwick, Blythe, Cramlington, Hexham, Morpeth, and Prudhoe on a town-by-town basis. And so we will be looking at either river power in 1 or 2 of those places and underground heat in the others. So there are the recommendations. I think this is a great idea. I'm very happy to be proceeding with it. Any questions? Yes, Richard Wearmouth.
Thank you. Not questions so much as just some further comment, because it is an important subject. It's a great opportunity for Northumberland, you've mentioned some of the sources of potential power there for us, but whilst other councils probably have to dig deep in order to access that power, both financially and physically, that's not something that we necessarily do have to do in Northumberland, of course. We do have sources of industrial heat, that are mentioned in this document, in Cramlington, near Ashington, and in the Hexham Valley as well, that will, as well as places where hot water is literally bubbling to the surface almost, in terms of places where we can recover heat from mine workings. And it makes life so much easier, and it's why it's such a good concept for us to be developing here. Ultimately, we want to seize this opportunity. It allows us to deliver clean, green energy that's immune to the global supply chain issues and wars overseas. So therefore, it really does help to insulate us from some of those issues that we see that affect everyday life at the moment, which is another really important reason for pursuing this ultimately. There's going to be lots of opportunities in due course through this work for our communities. People will no doubt be able to access different forms of employment as part of this as well, because this is going to require quite a lot of physical work to create the infrastructure. We're very grateful for all of the positive interactions we've had so far with the North East LEP and with other agencies within government that have got us headed in the right direction. It's really vital that we do this next bit of work, and I would just like to say thanks to Matt, Hannah and Nick in the climate change team and other officers who've engaged with us to get us to the point that we are now. Thank you. Happy to embrace all the recommendations and second your proposal.
Good, thank you very much indeed. Yes, Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum as far as the green agenda is concerned. This is just something that is just absolute common sense. And heat is expensive. And if we've got these various commercial enterprises out there, like in my area, you've got EGA, that is pumping out this heat that could be harnessed to heat houses and businesses, it's nothing but absolute common sense. I mean, I'm fully supportive of this scheme, and I always have been, because many, many years ago, when the large extension at EGA took place, there was talk of them doing this then, but it never actually went ahead for reasons why I don't know, but that was going back 15 years, and I thought then that was an excellent idea. I mean, it's brilliant, but, you know, let's be honest about this. In the 8 towns concerned, there will be an awful lot of groundworks going on, roadworks and things, but, you know, you can't make an omelette without cracking an egg, so to speak. So I'm absolutely 100% behind this scheme.
Good. Excellent. That's good, thank you. Anything else from anyone else? So we are looking, hopefully, at the next stage. We'll proceed as smoothly as the previous stage, and that ultimately, hopefully, around 150,000 homes and residents will benefit from this scheme, and I think we all share the ambition to make sure that we move forward with this with all speed. So I've proposed it. It's been seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. Are you all in favour of the recommendations, please? Yep, that's unanimous. That is absolutely unanimous. Thank you. So now we move on to paper C, which is Northumberland Stewardship and Rural Growth Investment Programme, Nature Recovery Response. This is a paper that draws together what we feel are our responsibilities as council and the obligations that have been placed upon us by government under the 2021 Environment Act and under the 2022 Levelling Up Bill. Those legal obligations are clear, and we need to follow those. Our responsibilities to our environment and to the county that we all love are equally important. This paper is not about saying that we feel farmers and farming and landowners and tenant farmers and all those people who provide that rich patchwork of farming up in the hills and down along the coastal plain are in any way going to disbenefit from this. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. This is, and I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment by explaining what the schemes are. This will provide money to help, not just to reach our responsibilities, but also to meet our legal obligations to make sure that we do our very best not to tell people what to do, not to force people what to do, but to encourage and to support people in moving forward. So that really important balance between food security, which ultimately is the most important part of what we do in this country. Food security is balanced by our environment. We will not be dictating. We will not be cutting back on anything that the Council have done previously unless there is a very sound, solid case, and we as an administration will need to agree that. So this is about moving forward together, just as we did on climate change, and you can see the results of our climate change work very clearly by the fact that we have increased our resources in terms of our officers to help us with this. We have been around the county many times over the past 2 years, holding public meetings, encouraging people to think more about how they can play their part in managing climate change, not by huge investment, but by perhaps just looking at the temperature of their homes, perhaps looking at the temperature of their washing machines, how we can all play our part. And that work will continue, and it's actually going to become even more crucial as we reach our revision of the Climate Change Action Plan, which will take place this autumn. We will be building into that action plan our key aim of putting our environment first. So we will do all we can without dictation and without in any way imploding or impacting in any way on people's business. We will be helping move that forward. So how are we going to do that? Well, the paper makes it clear that the first one is around that we will lead the development of the North of Tyne local nature recovery strategy on behalf of the North of Tyne. And that's a big responsibility, and we're very grateful to the North of Tyne for helping us with that. Secondly, we're going to lead on rurality and environment within the new NEMCA, which is the North East Mayoral Combined Authority. So Northumberland will pick up rurality and environment within its portfolio and will lead on that for the new LA7 Combined Authority. That places a significant opportunity for us, and I'm really grateful that we will be able to play a part not just across Northumberland but across the whole of the new Combined Authority. Thirdly, we will lead on a new scheme which is local investment in natural capital. This is around £1 million that we will incorporate within our Borderlands programme. And then finally, and probably the most importantly, is the Northumberland Stewardship and Rural Growth Investment Plan. The stewardship will be around enhancing our natural assets, and rural growth will be to help develop the rural economy. That will cut across many towns and villages as well as rural areas. So it is a hugely important new initiative, and I'm very excited about it. What will we be doing? We will be providing small business advice across the county. We will be taking on what are called rural asset multiplier pilots, which is a bit of a mouthful, which is why I had to look at my notes to remind myself what it actually is. Let's call it RAMPs. That's a bit easier. What are they? They are pilot schemes to see how we can build in extra money into specific areas to see how we might manage those particular areas. One will be in the area of outstanding natural beauty. The other will be in and around the national park. And then finally, one I'm particularly excited about is Made in Northumberland. Now, we have a scheme now which has been very successful and continues to be successful. But this will pump much more money into this scheme so that we can proudly say, for any article that we might sell in the shops or in our tourist information centres or across the county or indeed across the country or maybe even across the world, these are products made in Northumberland, and they will be a range of products. And we will invest heavily in this scheme, and it will be a great success and build on all the work that everybody's done over the years and help reinvigorate this Made in Northumberland scheme. So all of these things together will provide great support for the rural economy. It will provide the backbone of what we're trying to do here by building on to our ambitious climate change action plan, putting the environment first. That will take a whole range of different aspects, but I will be explaining those in due course and announcing what we're going to be doing specifically around around putting the environment first. So this is saying at the time when Northumberland has got the lowest unemployment rate that we have ever had, at a time when we're seeing new businesses setting up, not just in rural areas across the county, but also in the southeast, where we're seeing new investment in our skills training. We're seeing a whole new range of fantastic projects, that this is now turning the spotlight more upon our environment and all the things that we can do working with people concerned, not dictating, but working with people and providing the necessary income and funding to support the work going forward. So there are a number of recommendations in here which I'm formally proposing. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Wheeler. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Watson.
I applaud what you've said and sends a message out, I think, to everyone in Northumberland that we're serious. And I would like to suggest, if you haven't already thought about it, that we bring this back to Cabinet in 6 months or so with a report to see exactly how we're doing this. Thank you, Chair.
That is an exceptionally good point, and I will make that. I will add that to number 6. If you're all happy, as an additional recommendation to have an update on progress, and that will be around how the schemes are working, where we might be able to invest more, and how we might do it differently, and how well, I'm sure, they're working. So before we go any further, would you all agree to that additional recommendation proposed by Councillor Wearmouth, seconded by...
No, you don't need to. You've already proposed it.
No, I'm going to do it now, and seconded by Guy Renner-Thompson. Thank you. Okay, yes.
Right, okay. This is another great example of Northumberland being in a place where we can lead in the rural space and on the rural agenda. There's a lot of work that's already gone on in terms of the future of farming, championed by yourself, Glenn, and by Mark Mather and others in this council, which was really refreshing, and that informed a whole load of work streams. Ultimately, we're a practical administration representing a county full of practical and hard-working people, and we know that it's farmers who've made our landscape, and it's farmers who keep it at its most beautiful and diverse. And what the government's doing with this process, and we're doing, is enshrining that in policy and making sure that we put money behind it. And so as part of what we've got here, we're accepting 1.28 million, I think it is, of money in order to allow us to develop this policy. There's clear potential gain here for Northumberland residents and for the rural environment in particular, and the opportunity, which is really important for us as well, as we did with that farming report, to influence what goes on in national policy and what and define that. It links strongly with the investment plan that we've already agreed, that £9 million investment plan in the rural space that's intended to provide that Northumberland small business service that you mentioned, the rural asset multiplier pilots, and the Northumberland food strategy. So it really does set the scene for the future. And I was going to suggest it myself in terms of coming back to Cabinet, but I'm very pleased to have been beaten to it by Jeff, that we really look forward to seeing updates on this and how it's proceeding, because it's really, really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guy Renner-Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'd in particular like to welcome, you mentioned the specific fund for the Northumberland Coast Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, of which I represent the middle of it. And everyone's very looking forward to this additional grant funding coming in and being able to bid for it. I think this is another example of Northumberland leading the way on these types of issues. In my time as a councillor here, I've met George Eustace, who was the DEFRA Secretary of State. We've met Baroness Rock, who ran the Tenant Farming Review, met Lord Benyon, who is a Fisheries Minister. These are people in Parliament who look to Northumberland for the future and how we're doing things. And the perfect example of that is the Great Northumberland Forest. The hill farming, the tenant farming sector, very, very concerned that this push to plant trees will push them off the land, will just plant blanket trees everywhere. That's not what the Great Northumberland Forest is. It's specifically planting small pockets of trees across the county, and that is exactly the way that the government wants to go and exactly the way we should be going, and it's the way that other counties, upland areas should be going rather than promoting blanket tree planting.
Good, excellent. Anything else from anyone else? So, just on the point you've made about our farming group that we set up and all that brilliant work they did, one of the recommendations that they made was to have a conference with government and DEPRA officials around how best the council can help move the agenda forward to ensure that farming continues to have that really important balance of food security whilst attention to the environment. All farmers that I know are natural environmentalists anyway, so I think this is all going to work very well. And I have written to Lord Benyon, and he will be coming up to Northumberland, I hope, in the early autumn to come and meet some of the members of our farming commission that we set up and move things forward from there. So, all good. The recommendations are there. There's a new additional recommendation which was proposed by Councillor Wearmouth and seconded by Councillor Renner Thompson, which is to seek an update on progress. And you as well, Geoffrey, you mentioned, you raised it, so thank you for that. So an update in the next 6 months on the progress of all these schemes, an update on how we are moving forward with our commission and meetings with ministers. So with those now 6 recommendations, are you going to, have we got, I proposed them, so I need a seconder, and that's... Seconded, yeah. Well done. And then we are all in favour, I think? Yes. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much indeed for all your help. And then we move on to the asset management framework, and I'm going to ask Richard Wearmouth, who's the portfolio holder for corporate services, to give us an update on where we are with this important work.
Thank you, Leader. Important work, but very much a policy. This report isn't like the earlier reports that we've had on the agenda. It's not a new project or accepting money into the council. Instead, it's about getting on with putting the internal policy of the council in good order, ready for the future. It identifies how we'll make decisions in terms of council assets, and puts a consistent approach in place that delivers best value for residents as we look to utilise the assets that we have. In due course, we'll be examining assets across the council to make sure we drive best value from the estate. However, first, we do have to have this important bit of actually establishing basically how we do it. And that's what I'm asking for your support on today. And I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Watson. Any questions around this one? Doesn't seem to be any. I mean, this is essentially setting the framework for moving forward with the prudent management of our assets, even more than we currently prudently manage them. But we are aware that, that perhaps we need to just give this added focus. So we now have the framework, and I'm very pleased to say that our new Executive Director, Simon Nielsen, will be leading on this. And I'm quite sure that we'll be getting an update on where we've got to and where we are, and there will be an action plan, I'm sure, coming forward very soon that will actually detail the work that's going to happen. So that's good. Proposed and seconded. Are you all in favour, please? Could show. Yeah, that's unanimous. So thank you very much for that. We now move on to, again, another report from Councillor Wearmouth about a very good bit of news, which is the financial outturn, the final outturn, which is subject to audit, but this is to give us an update on where we currently are now. Richard Wearmouth.
Thank you, Leader. Mindful of time, and there's some very exciting things on the agenda, not that accounting isn't exciting. I'll try my best. The purpose of this report is basically to give you the final outturn position for the budget year 22 to 23. We've got a very long and detailed report. Probably key bits to note is a balancing of 5.9 million that's being moved into the general fund. We've got some reprofiling of the capital programme of 23.9 million as well, and various other things. There are a couple of recommendations in there which you're asked to approve. The first is the new grants and amendments to the existing grants in Appendix A, which require changes to the budget. And then the second one is that net reprofiling of the capital programme of 23.94 million from last year to this year to reflect the expected levels of capital expenditure.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Are you proposing your report?
I'm happy to propose the report.
And I will
yes.
second that. So we'll move on to discussion. Are there any questions about the report for Councillor Wearmouth? Well, let me start with a couple myself. On page 25, we have an item there around special education needs and disability, that budget being overspent by £2 million. And this is around transporting pupils specifically, 1,000 pupils and 550 escorts for those. Now, obviously, it's exceptionally important that we continue to provide the very best service we can for all our pupils, but it obviously is a worry when we see that we're overspent by that amount. Where do you think we're going to, and how we're going to be able to deal with this? Let me ask Councillor Renner-Thompson, who's got education in his portfolio.
Yes, thank you, Leader, for your very pertinent question. So, last month, you remember, we approved the school transport review. There were 36 recommendations within that, but there were a couple pertinent to this. So we've brought in a team of independent travel experts, which will help support our SEN pupils where appropriate to use public transport. That's not just about them being able to access public transport. That's about getting their everyday confidence up in life, so then they can be with their peers on public transport, which I'm sure we'll agree is a good thing. We've given greater financial support to families who'd wish to transport children themselves. So that's, for example, increasing a fuel allowance, so a parent could take a child themselves to school, which they might not have been, which they might have liked to do, but could not have afforded to do previously. And we've also devolved, we're running a pilot scheme, on devolving transport funding to schools to coordinate their own transport. So Collingwood here in Morpeth, for example, are very keen to get their own minibus. And then they know their children the best. They know the routes they can take to get around those children and bring them into school in a safe and secure manner. This is all just good practice. That it's not really about saving money. It's about supporting our SEN pupils. But it will also save money in the long run. And of course, the price of diesel has come back since these reports were written. So we're expecting a much calmer position next year.
Good. Okay, thank you for that. That's helpful. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, just very timely. Thank you, Leader, and to the officers and to the portfolio holder. We recently announced that there'll be post-16 support for SEN within Prydda, which covering the whole of the Tynedale area, which will have a small but important impact upon the figures discussed there. It is something which you've supported for some time, and I know the parents are absolutely delighted we've got that provision in the Tynedale area now.
Good, excellent, thank you very much. My second question is on page 51, which is around our car park programme and how good it is to see the new car parks up and running, particularly the Goose Hill car park in Morpeth, which seems to be full all the time, which is free because we keep town centre car parking free. There is still work to do, and it notes that we have got to deal with the Alnwick Duchess site, which we're very keen to get on with. And there are discussions taking place, I know, around potential parts of that. We want to make sure we get that Corbridge element of the car park completed. And we are also very keen, and I know that Councillor Patterson raises this with me often, around Boomer which is enjoying a considerable increase in visitor attendance, but there are parking issues where we need to get that sorted out. Newbiggin, of course, we will be working with, and Berry Castlegate. So those are projects that we are currently considering, and we continue to make those important, and we will continue to discuss those, and we will come forward, I'm sure, with proposals as soon as we possibly can. And I think you'd agree with that.
Absolutely. Yes. Boomer is booming. We need more car parking spaces.
Yes. Very good. Anything else from anyone else? No? Nothing else? Okay. Thank you very much then. So it's been proposed and seconded. Are you all in favour of the final outturn? And can I thank, that is unanimous, and can I thank Richard and also officers for all their hard work on this, and how grateful I am to them for this very good position we're in. Now we move on to spending more money, which is a summary of our new capital proposals. What I'm going to do is, there are 3 here, and I'm going to take each one by one, and then at the end we will vote on all of them individually or together, depending on how the discussion goes. So the first one is around children's residential homes. Guy Renner-Thompson, explain to us exactly what this is about.
Thank you, Leader. So some time ago, we approved this money to purchase one house in Ashington, which would have been a 6-bedroom house for an additional 6 spaces. We haven't been able to progress that, but in the meantime, the government have changed the rules around home registration, so we can register multiple children's homes under one registration, and we're taking advantage of that rule change here. We're proposing to repurpose that money to purchase 6 2 to 3 bedroom homes. Each one of those homes would have 1 child in, plus 1 or 2 members of care staff. These are the children with the most difficult needs, that need sort of one-to-one support. We have always believed, and I always believed, it's better that we keep those children, as long as it's appropriate, within the county rather than having to send them away. So this has a great moral purpose for us. The least disruption to these children's lives, the better. It'll increase our capacity from 15 spaces to 21. It will cost 1.26 million, but it will save us £250,000 a year in external fee placements. So it will pay for itself within 5 years.
That sounds really good, doesn't it? Everybody happy with that? Just to proceed? Okay. The next one I'm going to ask Richard Wearmouth to discuss, which is the BT Openreach gain share receipt.
Thank you, Leader. So this is some more positive news. It's effectively, if we look back at Project Gigabit that's been running for a good period of time, there was a gain share component to that, which meant that if we signed up more people, then we received back some of the proceeds of the sales of those connections together with BT and with the government. So some of that money is, as you'll see in the report, owed to the government for their component, but £1.156 million comes back to NCC. And rather than just stick that in the bank or anything else that we might have chose to do with it, we're going to redeploy that into community broadband to make sure that we can assist in connecting up to another 462 properties and some of the more difficult to reach areas. Yeah. We're doing a huge amount in this county in terms of connection to broadband and the various other solutions that we can deploy. It's the absolute way to level up in rural communities. It allows all sorts of things in terms of flexible working, about different ways of doing business, and so this is really, really positive, and happy to obviously support it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's got to be good news to invest 1.156 million into providing broadband for, as Richard says, those places that have been so patient waiting for broadband. The difficult to reach areas, the ones up in the valleys and, you know, across rural Northumberland. So really pleased about this. Great news, and many people will benefit. Everyone happy with that one? Okay, so the next one is around EV charging points, and we are planning with the money that we've received plus some of our own to install rapid charging points, which are, and the list of places where they are due to go is with you, but it's Ashwood Business Park in Ashington, Chapel Street Car Park in Berwick, Greenwell Road in Alnwick, Newmarket Car Park in Morpeth, Otterburn Village, Queen Street Car Park in Amble, and the Wentworth Car Park in Hexham. So we are installing these right across the county, and we are continuing to install EV chargers with all the speed that we can. And the fact that these are rapid chargers, of course, are even more important in terms of investment for the future. Any questions? Everybody happy? Yeah, and so we could move to the final one. Richard Wearmouth will take us through the Alnwick Playhouse replacement of a lighting rig.
Thank you, Leader. So this council has done an awful lot of work with the Alnwick Playhouse over a number of years. It houses our library and some other facilities as well as part of that work. What has come to pass in recent times, in the last number of months, is following inspections of some of the infrastructure, and particularly the lighting rig for the main auditorium, there is some issues that have been identified with that, and as a result, the Playhouse have approached us for support to make a replacement of that, and we're minded to support them in that. They are a really important partner of the council, not just in terms of the building, but in terms of bringing that cultural activity to one of the most impressive towns in the country, and making sure that it has that cultural offer in all weathers, because there's plenty going on in Alnwick, but also we want to have places where people can go when it's a little bit wet and so on, or just to enjoy the evening, and don't need to continue to do so.
Good. Thank you for that. Yes, Geoffrey Watson.
As a portfolio holder for culture, I'm just delighted that we're able to find the money to support this theatre. It's an important part of the community. As Richard said, it's got the library in there. It also does the Tourist Information Centre, and also has a cafe, and is becoming more and more a hub of culture in that area. So I'm delighted that we're able to help, and I will be obviously supporting this motion.
Good, thank you very much. And thank you for all the work that you've done on this one, particularly. It is an important project. So there we are. There are the four capital proposals. Is a proposal for all of them? Yes, proposed by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Watson. Are you all in favour? Yeah. So that's really exciting developments in broadband and lighting in Alnwick, and new rapid chargers, and all the work we're doing in children's residential homes. Terribly important, and all very good projects. So we now move on to our next item, which is Energising Blythe programme, the Levelling Up Deep Dive. Tell us what that means, please, Richard.
Thank you, Leader. So this is a really interesting piece of work that came about as part of the town deal for Blythe, and discussions that we had together with officers and others with Michael Gove. It's obviously part of a huge amount of work that's going on across the county, where we've brought hundreds now of millions of pounds of government funds to projects up and down the county, whether it's the Has in Hexham, whether it's Borderlands work in places like Wooler or Berwick, or Alnwick, or again town deal money in Ashington, and so on. So, but focusing on Blythe, this is an additional £20.71 million that government is providing to us to add onto the £70 million that is being invested in the Future High Street Fund and in the town deal already. And what's it trying to do? It's trying to cover some of the things that aren't necessarily captured in those work streams already, and specifically looking at housing stock in the town centre and housing renewal. And so £18 million of that funding is looking at renewing the housing stock, including some works on insulation, heating and so on and so forth, but plenty as well on extra care facilities and the like. There's also 1.06 million to establish a team to tackle empty properties in the town centre, and in Blythe we know that we've got all sorts of work streams fixing all sorts of things. One thing that we've got an issue with in one form or another is antisocial behaviour, and some of that can stem from having properties sat empty, and so having a team within the council that can help address this is really important. And then finally, the other bit that Michael Gove listened to us on in that visit that he made, and the proposals that have been developed, is to assist us in the fit out of the Energy Central Learning Hub, and we are receiving £1.45 million to make sure that learners in that building have all of the kit that they need in order to thrive and to go and subsequently seek jobs and employment in the Blythe Estuary, where all of those green jobs are being created as part of the Energy Central initiative. So it's a really fantastic bit of work. There's a huge amount of work that's gone in from officers, and Councillor Ploshai, who sadly can't be here today to talk you through the report, and hence why you have me covering this. And I heartily recommend everything that is discussed and recommended in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Questions from anyone? Yes, Guy Renner-Thompson.
Not so much a question, but I want to say I was along with yourself and Richard, at the opening last week, and it was absolutely fantastic to see in person all the work that's gone on, and the beginning of the end product. We sign off these bits of paper with X millions of pounds on. You actually go and see it in person. It's quite moving to see the impact that we can have and the government can have. And of course, next door to the Energy Central Hub is our welding centre, which you came around.
Indeed.
And we met one young woman, didn't we, Glenn, who was making a rose out of metal. And she would have been 18 years old. And she said the reason she was getting into welding was because they went on a school trip to the port of Blythe. She looked at the facilities that we were about to build, and she thought, that's where I want my career to be. And she'll come out of there earning easily £40,000 to £50,000 because of something that didn't exist 3 years ago. So we should all be very proud of it.
I'm really pleased you mentioned that, actually, because we did go to Energy Central Learning Hub, laying of the beginning of the first shovelful of soil, and it was great to see that. And I was so impressed by the welding centre. Absolutely fantastic. And actually, I always feel the same when I go to Blythe and that part of the town. I think this is just incredible what has been achieved here, and gratitude to everybody involved. But yesterday I decided I would just go and have a look at some of the housing in Blythe on the front of this report. And it is not acceptable to have some of the housing that we have in Blythe, and I think it's been that case for many, 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 many years. And we're going to do something about it, and high time as well. So altogether, it's not just the Port of Blythe and all the brilliant stuff going on there, but we must tackle the infrastructure and some of those housing appalling situations that we have in Blythe, and get them sorted, and we will. I just want to add one other quick thing, which is that the amount of money coming into Northumberland now from central government is, I'm told, the highest it has ever been. The highest it has ever been in terms of the amount of money we are investing in rural projects through Borderlands and through town deals, and of course this fantastic amount of money that we have to rejuvenate Ashington. how are we going to deliver all of these? Well, we will, and we've recently had a discussion with officers, and we have come to the conclusion that we must and we will increase the amount of staff that we have working on these hugely important projects so that they will all be delivered, and they will be delivered on time. So it's good to have the pressure of timescale upon us, and that's been useful. But I think it is a great privilege to be a county council that has got itself into the position where government feels satisfied and comfortable in passing on so much money for us to spend on benefiting our residents, and that's what we're going to do. I've got Councillor Watson and then Councillor Horncastle.
I just want to have a quick word about some of the things that we've on the sheet here that we've achieved. A few years ago, who would have envisaged that we would have had a deep dock at Cambus with a capacity to load industrial things in and out? Who would have thought we'd have the wonderful developments that's happening there? It's just incredible what we've achieved, and I think we have to thank our partner, Advance Northumberland, for the work that it's done as well. It's not been an easy ride. None of these things ever are. But I think that the Northumberland Energy Park is a real crown amongst our jewels, and I think it's great to see it progressing. And it ties in with all the things that you've just been reiterating, what Guy said about jobs coming. It's there, we've done it, and we should be proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agreed. Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Leo. Yeah, you've touched on what I was going to say, but I was going to mention about the housing element of this, the over 250 long-term empty properties. I mean, that doesn't just take properties away from the housing stock. It's the fact that, it causes antisocial problems, all sorts of bad behaviour. It looks bad for the town, it looks bad for the council. So over £1 million revenue funding towards getting a team together to accelerate remedying the problem is very welcome indeed.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I would actually just like to also thank Blythe Town Council, who I've been meeting quite a lot on and off at various events recently, who do play a valuable role in helping us move Blythe forward and have much to be grateful for the work that they do. So thank you to Blythe Town Council as well. So with that, I would like to see how we go with this recommendation. Are you satisfied? It's been proposed and seconded. Are you all in favour? Yep, good. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to Environmental Enforcement Fixed Penalty Notice and Penalty Notice Policy 2023. And I'm going to ask Councillor Gordon Stewart to present his first report as a new Cabinet member on this subject.
Thank you, Leader. Good morning, panellists. Two papers before you today. One is in relation to policy, and the other one's in relation to the level of fines relating to the fixed penalty notices. Small changes in the policy, which you've had time to view. I hope you agree with the policy and also an increase in fines. Cabinet is aware that the government announced last week that they were going to put a motion forward to actually increase the fines on fixed penalty notices again. That will take place probably from the 31st of this month. So I'll review the papers with officers again at the back end of the year and return with updated figures. So councillors throughout the country will receive many complaints from residents and businesses about one subject I'll mention out of the whole list here is about litter. We live in a beautiful part of the world, and tourism is a very big part of this economy. Tourists will go back regionally, nationally, internationally, and they'll say what wonderful beaches they've seen, what great rolling countrysides we've got here, the friendliest people around. The fine restaurants, and we've mentioned before, Leader, about made in Northumberland, the great gifts and food they've got here. But I don't want them to go back there and saying it's a dirty county. It certainly isn't, but we want it even better. That's why I'm recommending that the fine level on fixed penalties will be increased by the highest level possible at this time. There are safeguards there for vulnerable people and people who are under 18 years of age, and the details are given there. And if people wish to pay the fixed penalty notices, there will be a discount on that within a set period. Fixed penalties are only for first-time offenders and for most, we say, small amount of litter being thrown down. But the courts can take action if the person who's received a fixed penalty notice decides not to pay or disputes it. And the fines are absolutely massive, quite rightly so. So, Cabinet, I would say, please support me in this one. The reasonable fine's been increased there, and thank you to the officer who's prepared the report.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. So getting tough on those people who don't treat our countryside and our streets and our roads with the right amount of respect. And I think it's the right thing to do. Are you proposing that, did you say? Yeah.
Yes, please, Chair.
And is it seconded? Seconded by Councillor Horncastle. Thank you. So, discussion. Councillor Horncastle.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, I support this, but I would just like to say a couple of things. One is that there is an awful lot of litter dropped to people I'm not held responsible for, and I don't think there are enough people actually getting fixed penalty notices for it, but that's not actually what we're talking about today. But what I'd like to say is get the message out that, especially on fly tipping, if you look at the figure here, 150 to 400 £, yes, that's for a fixed penalty notice, but let's get the message out that if you're a persistent offender and you actually end up in court, you can actually get horrendous fines, 20, 30,000 £, you can end up in jail, your vehicle's taken off you. And that's the message somehow we've got to get out, that we're not going to put up with that.
Absolutely. Yes, do you want to come back?
Yes, I'll come back. And absolutely right, Councillor Horncastle. The government's recommending in the paper proceedings upon them was £1,000 fixed penalty for fly tipping before you actually go to court. And also your point there about not enough people at court. Our Northumberland County Council staff and volunteers and local councils do a fantastic job out there. But to assist them from September, it's my intention to speak with the civil enforcement officers who have already got the powers to do something there, to refocus their efforts, to say to the public, yes, we know it's important to you, and we're going to show that Northumberland isn't the place you can just drop your litter and fly tip.
Good. Excellent. Anything else from anyone else? Okay, so I'm pleased that we're doing this, and hopefully we will see the results. Are you willing to vote on this? Everyone happy with the recommendation? That's unanimous. That's lovely. Thank you very much. So now we move on to our final report, and it's my pleasure to welcome back Councillor Veronica Jones, who was a Cabinet member and then wasn't and now is again, and is going to be very forthright, I'm quite sure, in presenting her report on drug and alcohol treatment and recovery service for Northumberland, the permission to award the contract. Veronica.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it's good to be back. So I want to present this report for the procure to award the contract. People who use drugs and alcohol problematically are often amongst the most vulnerable in our society. They're more likely to be in poor health, to die early, to be a victim of crime and to be in temporary or unstable accommodation. As part of our statutory public health function, the council needs to provide drug and alcohol treatment and recovery services. So the services are currently undergoing a procurement exercise, and this report seeks permission to award the contract once the exercise is complete. The tendering process will be complete by the end of July, and the new contract will start in the 1st of October. The total cost of the contract's for 4.5 years, and the cost is just over £3.5 million a year. It's got the option to extend for another 2 years. But there's no financial implications to the council, as the service is fully funded through the public health grant. Something about the service, because it is a really excellent service. It aims to reduce an unmet need for treatment in our communities, increase the numbers accessing treatment, which is really important, to reduce drug and alcohol related deaths and create effective criminal justice pathways when needed. The treatment and recovery programme provides medical interventions such as stabilising and maintenance of prescribing, along with counselling, support, group work and day programmes, and such activities as accessing employment, training, education support and family and housing support, and very importantly includes minimising harm through needle exchange, virus testing, vaccination and identification and treatment of wider health issues. The service works towards enabling service users to manage all the various aspects of recovery and maintain positive family and social networks. Again, this report seeks approval to award the contract once the tendering process is complete. Thank you.
Very good, very thorough. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions around this? Clearly, the action on this very much meets one of our 3 key priorities, which is tackling inequalities, because drug and alcohol misuse often leads to a downward spiral, potentially, leading to inequalities and difficulties in life generally. So that's why we are very keen to make sure that the service that we do procure is the very finest that we can. So, did you propose your report? And seconded by Councillor Renner-Thompson. Are you all in favour, please? That's unanimous. That takes us to the end of the meeting, so can I thank you all very much indeed for attending. Thank you to those who've joined us from home. And we look forward to seeing you, not in August, I don't think, for our next Cabinet meeting, but potentially in September. But whenever it is, we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.